All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we are actually live with this phenomenal, special individual. We actually have the one and only Larry Hoover Jr. right here, live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
Well, I'm doing all right. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good, best I could possibly be, just down here in Canada. We're still dealing with this pandemic full force. I hope everything is all well with yourself out there in Chicago.
Um, it's okay. We go through things back and forth, different people and what have you. But I mean, it's all right. It's a part of what our life looks like right now, here and everywhere else.
But Larry, I know you're a very busy individual with this entire campaign that you got going on right now. But for the listeners here in Canada, and of course for the younger generation that might not know exactly who your father is, I was wondering if you can tell us a bit more and explain more about the man, Larry Hoover Sr.
Okay, well, the man Larry Hoover Sr., first and foremost, I would just like to throw out there is well, you know what? I'm going to just explain him as Larry Hoover is a father. He's a guy that was trying to make changes in his community. He actually came from the streets. He's seen and lived everything that you could live in the streets. And from going through that and seeing individuals, young men that were my age and younger when I was like 17 coming into the prison system, he started doing things trying to guide those guys in a different direction. He seen that a lot of those guys that looked up to him and the legend of him. So he started trying to spread different information and give them guys try to introduce them to different opportunities on how they can move forward in life. And the main thing that he was trying to give to them to move forward was education, because he felt like with him not being educated, that was the reason why he had to turn to the streets and the individuals he saw in front of him as far as the pimps and the hustlers to try to make a living, which in turn landed him in prison.
And I do have to say as well, I really do hope that your father does get out, because in my personal opinion, he has most definitely overstayed where he is currently at, and he deserves nothing more than to come home and be with his family.
Well, yeah, it's definitely time for him having a non-violent drug case and other guys on his case being released because of the First Step Act. I mean, he deserves the same opportunities of them. I like people to understand that when they mention my father, they say Larry Hoover's a murderer, in which murder has nothing to do with his case and the reason why he's in the ADX, which is one of the top prisons in the world where they, drive people crazy and, it's just not an immoral, but an inhumane place for people to be, and they have him there for a nonviolent drug crime. And they introduced him as a murderer, but they never introduced the murders because the murders are not there. He had an original case where they said he was accused of making the call for a murder, but never that he has committed these murders, and they always introduce him as a murderer. And plus, the case that he's fighting to get out of ADX has nothing to do with the murder. But they never talked about the fact of what he was doing in his community and the changes he was trying to make, and that he was doing it from the streets and with people that were in the streets. To me, that's why my father is an icon and deserves a second chance, because the changes he was trying to make in his community without the help of the government, but with the people in the streets that were ruining the community, he was bringing them together to try to make a change in the community.
And I also read as well that they actually have him on a federal and a state charge as well. Normally that's very unheard of. Normally they drop one of them to actually go on with the other one. So just the fact that they have two going on is just kind of weird in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's very weird, and as a family we call it the Larry Hoover law, because they let things go through when it comes with keeping him incarcerated and away from the world that they usually don't let happen. Like, you're just not supposed to be held under two jurisdictions. You're right. They're supposed to let one go when you go on to the next one. But I think it's just in case he makes it through one situation, they still want to have hold of him.
And also, as well, I remember back in the day actually getting my hands on a Ghetto Boys CD. I believe it was the Resurrection, if I'm not mistaken, where your father was actually featured on that record. I have to ask, would you be able to share your thoughts on that? And of course, what did you actually think when you first heard your father on this multi-platinum recording group's project?
I was amazed. The Ghetto Boys was one of my favorite groups at that time, and then my father was on there, and my father was dropping knowledge and trying to reach out to his people. So it was a great thing. He was rocking the boat before Diddy and all those other people did. He was trying to get people from the streets to be a part of society and not be the outcast. Use their boats to try to have an opinion and make changes that was needed. Like, he understood what it was. Like, I feel as though some of the problem is that he had a lot of people willing to follow him, and he was trying to use those people that followed him to get into the government and politics, because he saw Mayor Daley, who was a mayor in Chicago that came from the streets, and he was trying to follow that blueprint where they came from immigrants and from gangs in the streets of Chicago into politics to run in the city. And it looked like he had the possibility of maybe making that happen. And I think that kind of scared the city of Chicago. They say that's not true, because they say he was just into selling drugs and streets and violent activities. But the proof is there, the things that he was trying to do.
And also, as well, yourself and Jay Prince actually helped Kanye and Drake come together and actually, to squash their beef. Actually, that was in Toronto earlier this month. I was wondering if you can tell our listeners a story behind that, and what was it like traveling all the way to the Great White North and helping to bring these two iconic hip hop individuals together?
Well, I mean, it was a beautiful thing. Just looking at hip hop in a whole, with what's going on, and so many of our entertainers and influencers out here dying from disagreements and what have you. And with my father seeing that we had the reach and the touch to deal with both of those guys because we had relationships with them, it was a great thing to squash their situation. It's possible that that harm was not going to happen to people out of their crew or any of them because of them coming together. And then just to see those people come together in support of my father, and to see so many people there hearing about who he is and at least knowing his name, and now people researching to find out who he is and what he's about. Like, it was just it was unreal for it to come together and see it actually happen.
And I gotta say, you guys definitely did the unthinkable, man, because, for a longest time, everyone that I know personally has always been wanting to see Drake and Kanye together. And that visit to Toronto definitely, like you said, made that happen, where on December 9th, they actually did the Free Larry Hoover concert. I was wondering can you give us your thoughts actually on their performances, and of course, what was it like actually witnessing hip hop history in the making?
Man, it was unreal. I mean, they both did their thing. There was no input from my part as far as what their performances were going to be. We got to see Kanye do some of the old Kanye we didn't know we was going to get. And, Drake is always a top-notch performer, and Drake does what he always does. It was no question on what Drake was going to do and what type of music he was going to do. We was wondering if Kanye was going to do the music that a lot of people have grown to love and know Kanye for. And, it was just beautiful. They both went out there. They had a good time. They put on a good show. And, they made my day and a lot of other people's day to, support my father and, help push towards information being put out there, help raise funds for different prison reform organizations and organizations that's on the ground out here trying to bring peace in our community. Like, it was just a great thing. It was something like you never expected it. But we was expecting it, but we you know, it was still amazing to see it all come together.
And I gotta say, I actually watched some of the videos on YouTube of this performance, and I have to say, the crowd was absolutely packed. They were loving every minute of that concert. I also have to ask, pertaining to that show, was it just Drake and Kanye there, or was there other opening acts as well?
No, just Drake and Kanye performed, and they were behind putting together everything that on how it was gonna go. So, you know, that was their choice to put it together how they put it together.
And while we were actually on the topic of Kanye West, I actually I actually heard on the news story, and I do know that obviously the news sometimes they do like to kind of twist stuff a little bit, but I heard that actually Kanye West actually visited the White House to try and actually get your father released from prison. I have to ask, if that is true, what was the result of that? Like, did it actually help the campaign any, or like, what actually was done when Kanye visited the White House?
That actually happened a couple years ago. He went and spoke to Trump. You know, it was on the news and everything where he was, you know, speaking about my father and what have you. And it didn't get us to where we needed to get to, because years later we still in this situation. But I mean, he did go advocate for my father at the White House, which was great. Nobody, well, not in a long time has somebody been there in his position to advocate for him and say that he needs to be released and that he will be a benefit to our community in the manner that Kanye got to do it in.
And also, as well, back in August, there was actually numerous reports of fans that actually spotted a recorded message by yourself on Kanye West's newest album titled Donda. I was wondering, how did that opportunity arise for you? And of course, what was it like actually being a part of that Grammy-nominated album?
Well, with me not being an artist, that was like an unreal thing. I couldn't even say it's like a dream come true, because I never had planned on being on the album speaking. My father did it, and ironically, the same guy that recorded my father for the Ghetto Boys, which was Mike Dean, wound up being the same guy that wound up putting me on the album. And I mean, it was amazing, and the fact that people could feel what I've been going through, and you know, understand and see my father as a human being, and not see him as just the monster that they paint him to be. Like it's a monumental moment in my life to be in that situation, actually.
And I gotta say, it definitely was a phenomenal record. I do know it had mixed reviews, but me personally, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that long-awaited project, and I gotta say, I loved his campaign leading up to that album. How he put together a big giant show and whatnot. Like, he marketed that album perfectly, in my personal opinion.
Well, that's the genius part of Kanye. He does things that other people don't do, or other people might be scared to do it, just don't think of doing. You know, that's where he stands out from the rest of it. Whoever had a listening party in a stadium, listening parties are usually in little rooms. So to get the audience to let you know what's good and what's not good, that's iconic. And he is iconic. He does iconic things.
And I also saw as well that Donda actually sold over 500,000 units actually in the United States alone. That's not even counting the other countries. And since you were a part of that project, did you actually receive an RIAA gold plaque?
No, I haven't received the plaque up to this point. Maybe it's the plaque coming. I never even, I never looked at it I haven't really looked at it from the artist's point of view, but I've been told that something should be coming maybe. But I didn't even look at that. See, if I was coming from the artist's point of view, then I would be looking to see how it did and, what's the accolades that you get with it. But with me, myself, it was really about putting the word out about my father and just kind of letting people know, like, some of the real things that we've been going through dealing with this situation.
And also as well, aside from the campaign here for a moment, I did notice on your Instagram story today that you actually brought up advertising about short story writing and whatnot. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about the service. And of course, if anyone is listening that is interested in purchasing that, how can they go about getting a hold of you to actually get their short story written by the one and only Larry Hoover Jr.?
No, well, it was really about more of me trying to have my story put out there. It's about if my life may be able to help some other people that's been going through these things. So, it's, I don't know the stats, but it's millions of kids who are affected by their parents being incarcerated, and like they don't know how to deal with it, and they go through things in life. So it's really finding somebody to help me put that story together to maybe be able to help somebody and share with the world, because parents being incarcerated is like a big issue in the United States.
And also as well, November 30th is actually named Larry Hoover Day. I was wondering, how does it feel knowing your father has a day dedicated to just him? And of course, what events take place on this designated day?
Okay, that was did in Atlanta, and that was done by Councilman Mark Baker. And, I mean, it just feels good to see my father not be just seen as a criminal, to get some accolades for some of the work that he was trying to do in his community, and that he wanted to, reach as far as he could go with it. It was just an amazing thing. And on that day, we served the community. We fed the homeless, and, we gave clothes, and we had like a food pantry where people could come get food. So just in honor of my father and the person who he is and the type of things that he likes to do for his community, when he had an opportunity to reach out and speak to his community and help put things together. He just did something in the name of him that represents him and who he was. So we just kind of gave out to the community. We went to a couple homeless shelters and donated some food and donated some clothes. And, we just service the community in the name of Larry Hoover, because that's what he would do if he's in position to service the community. That's what he does.
And I have to ask, is Larry Hoover Day, is this actually an every year thing, or was this just November 30th of 2021?
I believe once it's enacted, it's every year, November 30th. It stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. So next year, we'll be doing it again. What we'll be doing next year, I'm not sure exactly what we'll be doing. We'll definitely probably be feeding the community, and we'll probably be doing more, if, God willing.
And also as well, I have to ask, because I know a lot of the listeners are probably sitting back hearing this story and everything you're doing for your father. And I have to ask, how can we as listeners and supporters become more involved and kind of help out to try to help get your father out? Like, what can us as listeners and fans do? Is there a place where we can write letters or anything like that to try and help this campaign grow and help spread the word?
I mean, at this point, it would be to kind of just stay tuned and stay abreast of the movement, and just keep listening in till we get to that point of whether it's going to be writing letters or signing petitions. Before, we haven't got to the point where we exactly need you to do anything in particular like that. But, put the word out there so that they can know that Larry Hoover is a man that deserves redemption and a second chance. He's living in a moral situation. His main situation. He's 70 years old. Like, I just need the listeners to keep passing the word that he needs a second chance. He needs redemption. It's time for him to have his freedom and try to live a little bit of life at this point. And once you keep listening in, and it's time where everybody could actually sign a petition or write letters, just be aware so that you can do it. We just want to keep spreading the word of who he is and that he's being done wrong. He deserves a second chance.
And also, I have to ask Larry, what is next for yourself and this phenomenal campaign? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this broadcast? Anything else you would still like to touch on or talk about? Well, we still got you here live on the Canadian FM dial here this evening.
I mean, well, basically, what's next is just keeping the movement alive and making it grow. Like it's here, but it's a big fight for me. And what's next is that I'm just gonna keep fighting. Like we have to present some information to the judge that hopefully he takes in and honors and respects. But so it's just keeping the movement going, trying to correct the image of my father, and help different people that's dealing with prison reform, trying to speak to the youth to change the mindset of the youth, because our community has like a mindset that's set for destruction at this point. So it's just being a part of being a part of society and my community and changing the outlook on how we see in the world out here and how we living and going through life.
But also, Larry, before we part ways, if you don't mind me asking, this is the time in the interview that I give a chance for the individual that does slide into the radio station airwaves, just like a chance to drop them social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything you got going on if they're not already doing so.
All right, I had Larry Hoover Jr. _ on Instagram. Then you can go to the Larry Hoover Project, also on Instagram. You can follow Justin Moore Esquire on Instagram, which is my father's attorney. And, yeah, those are the sites that you can go to.
And I got to say...
Excuse me, I'm sorry. And,
no, it's all good. No, my apologies.
Yeah, it's also LarryHooverJr.com.
But I gotta say, Larry, first and foremost, man, thank you so much for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening, and allowing us to have you on the radio station airwaves this evening, man. I gotta say, I really hope your father gets to come home very soon. Like I said at the beginning of the broadcast, I think it's long overdue. He definitely deserves to be back home with you guys. So we here at 97.7 FM definitely are with you on the Free Larry Hoover campaign. And anything we can do to help as well, do not hesitate to reach out. Any advertisements, anything you need us to air to help further push this campaign, don't hesitate to send it our way, and we'll definitely get that in rotation.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say thank you for having me. It's an honor to listen to my situation. And when you hear a negative outlook, because it seems as though the feds and other people follow up what we do and tell their story of him being a murderer, let's look for some truth. Let's hope that some truth can be put out here in the world, and not all this wrong and negative information that they keep painting the picture of him with. Man, I just want for people to follow up, and when this information comes out, for people to say what real information is behind them.
And I gotta say, I definitely agree with that one, Larry. I really do. But for now, man, thank you so much, and definitely have yourself a wonderful night out there in Chicago, man. I gotta say, all the wishes to yourself and your entire family in 2022.
All right, thanks for having me, and I'll talk to you again.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Larry.